Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to our webinar this evening. We're going to get started here in just a minute or two. I want to give everyone time to log into the presentation. So, like I said, we'll get started here in just a moment, but very excited to have everyone joining us tonight. This is a joint collaboration between undergraduate admissions and the Scholars Program, or Honors and Scholars Program, and I've been working on it with a colleague in the Honors and Scholars Program since March, so we're very excited to have you here. I see that a few more people joined, so just let you know, we'll get started here in just about 30 seconds to maybe a minute, just see if there are any last participants who are going to join, but also just trying to be aware of everyone's time and making sure that we're making good use of that. All right, and it looks like the numbers have stayed pretty consistent for about the last 30 seconds or so. So we'll go ahead and get started. Once again, want to welcome everyone here this evening. My name is Rob Reed. I'm a Senior Assistant Director in Undergraduate Admissions. And as I said, this webinar tonight, the webinar tonight's about the Scholars Program and really experiential learning within the Scholars Program. But this is a series of webinars that we're doing to help bring the student experience to you because it's been, as you know, a very odd year with the pandemic going on, and just looking for those opportunities to really maybe use some of the benefits of this virtual space to bring Ohio State to you and let you hear from students. So as we're going through the program tonight, if you have any questions, certainly feel free to engage with us. We just ask that you click on Q&A, use that, send those questions out, and we'll make sure that they're getting answered. Really, whatever questions you have, whether it's about honors or scholars or the university in general, putting those in there. Just remember that questions that you're putting in there can be seen by anybody. If it is something more private question, or if you're having tech issues, feel free to use the chat function. But being able to utilize that to get your questions answered. One thing to note too, just with this upcoming fall, right now there aren't any on-campus visit opportunities for Ohio State. We are completely virtual this autumn in terms of campus visits for our guests. So I do want to talk about one of our, in addition to the webinar that we have tonight, want to talk about our Buckeye Academic Preview Live. I'm pretty sure that's what they want me to do in my office. So, Buckeye Academic Preview Live. That's how I'm assuming it's going to be read. But there's two different dates for that: October 3rd, which is a Saturday, and October 12th, which is a Monday. But it's a online program, whereas this program is really going to be about getting you information about Ohio State from our students. This is going to have a lot of different messaging, not just from honors and scholars, but undergraduate admissions and other offices. We'll share the screen again at the end, but you can see the scarlet and gray, our reservation site, and the preview code to use for this. It's in the afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m. So if you can join us, we would love to have you there. Definitely something that we would love to have. And like I said, we are not going to have any on-campus visits in the fall. We may start opening things up in spring, but we're going to be evaluating that and getting that information out soon. Finally, before we get started with the program, I just want to read our anti-racism statement. This is something that is a core value for us here at the university, and something that we believe is important to put at the start of our presentations. But as members of the Ohio State University, we condemn anti-Black racism and racism in all of its forms. And we are committed to engaging, interrupting, and dismantling institutionalized racist structures. Ohio State's mission to prepare students to be leaders and engaged citizens calls us to demand and support change. Learn more about the work of Ohio State at go.osu.edu/addressing-racism. So like I said, a core value of ours, something that we believe strongly in and something that we believe is important to put there at the front of our presentations. With our webinar tonight though, moving into that, experiential learning within the Scholars Program at Ohio State. Once I'm done here, going to turn it over to Carrie Mills, and she's going to give you a brief introduction to our Scholars Program, talk about applying to the Scholars Program, and then turn it over to a couple of our program coordinators and some of our students so you can hear from them. But want to thank you for joining us this evening and look forward to giving you this information and answering all the questions that you have. So I'll turn it over to Carrie.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Carrie Mills, as Rob said, and I'm an assistant director at our Honors and Scholars Center. And I'm really excited to be here today speaking with you about the wonderful opportunities our Ohio State Scholars Programs provide for our undergraduate students. And so as Rob said, today I'm going to go over our mission and our goals. I'm going to explain some key benefits of the Scholars Program, explain what we're looking for in an applicant and how to apply. And then we're going to turn it over to Stephen Blaylock and Ben Fortman and their students, and they'll spend the bulk of our time together giving you a closer look into our experiential learning within Scholars. And we'll also leave some room at the end for questions. So, but feel free to pop those questions in the Q&A as we're going along with the program as well. So let's get started. So our mission states that the Ohio State Scholars Program promotes specialized experiential learning programming for academically motivated undergraduate students through theme-based residential communities, engagement opportunities, and personal development. Our center really facilitates impactful, rigorous, and unique opportunities for high-achieving students that further that student success and involvement in what we call our goals. And these goals are high-impact practices that we believe our honors and scholars students need in order to be successful at the university, in their communities, and in life after college. We believe the more experiences they have, the better off they'll be. And I'm not going to go into detail into all of our goals. You can find more information about our goals on our website if you're really interested. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. I will point out original inquiry is our fancy word for research, kind of makes our acronym work, but you can definitely find out more information about our goals on our website. So we have two separate programs, our University Honors Program and our Ohio State Scholars Program, and it's really all about finding the right program for your passions. Neither program is better or worse. The programs are different paths to the same destination, which ultimately is that Ohio State diploma, right? So the primary focus for honors is on the enhanced curricular experience inside the classrooms and laboratories. We challenge our honor students to push themselves to go farther in both depth and breadth of learning, and we expect that they're taking a rigorous curriculum, in fact, more rigorous than what they took in high school. Well, the primary focus for scholars is on the enhanced co-curricular or extracurricular experiences outside of the classroom, but still very academic in nature. Students are applying for one of 17 living learning communities centered around a particular theme or area of interest. Students cannot start out participating in both programs, and we'll explain that a bit later when we get into how to apply. But our program tonight is meant to really highlight our scholars programs, and we're excited to do so. So our scholars programs are two-year programs designed with different learning outcomes each year. And I'm going to give you a broad overview as we don't have time to go in depth into each of the 17 programs. However, I urge you to take some time again to explore them further on our website. You'll find lots of information about what the programs are doing or have done, the benefits of the programs, and the learning outcomes that our students are receiving by participating in these programs. Here you'll see a listing of our 17 scholars programs, and many students apply for a scholars program that is actually not related to their major. Students enjoy the variety and diversity that a scholars program outside of their academic area may bring. So for an example, a student majoring in engineering perhaps is really passionate about the visual and performing arts. Perhaps they did theater or band or choir in high school, and they want to continue that into college, but they don't want to major in that. They want to major in engineering. So they may be majoring in engineering, but applying to our Arts Scholars Program. On the other hand, some students want to stay within their major, and a student planning to major in engineering might apply to either our engineering or our humanitarian engineering scholars program to really delve into their major even more. So our co-curricular activities or learning experiences are a large part of what we do in the scholars programs, and many are listed here. They include connections to on and off campus resources and opportunities, including speakers, service, excursions, leadership opportunities, and social activities, just to name a few. Things like excursions to the Supreme Court, the Columbus Zoo, COSI, which is our Science and Industry Museum, labs, art galleries, museums, shows, and a variety of lectures or speakers. Some of our service projects together include Habitat for Humanity, tutoring, working with the Olentangy watershed, providing adaptive toy workshops, and volunteering at the Mid-Ohio Food Bank. All of the programs have a professional staff member, and their job is to run the program and plan activities and learning outcomes for the students in the program. Your Scholars Program Manager is an excellent resource for you and helps to make Ohio State smaller and more manageable. They're very connected on campus, and they can help support you and guide you in whatever help you need or whatever idea that you have. And tonight you'll be meeting two of our program managers, Stephen and Ben. Students also have the opportunity to complete a capstone project during their second year that will help them get to where they're going next. Each capstone for the 17 programs is a little different, but all are designed to recap student learning and set them up for their next step in their career. Students also receive a milestone designation on their transcript after completing their second year of the program. So unless they're commuting from home, students must live together their first year in the residence hall designated for their particular scholars program. We provide learning opportunities related to scholars program themes within the goals framework, and access to resources at Ohio State and within the greater Columbus community that really cultivate those personal, academic, and career interests. We have a residential learning community that respects and celebrates diversity, reflects upon social identity, and desires to positively impact society. Scholars residential communities make Ohio State smaller initially and help build professional skills among networks with peers, staff, faculty, and alumni to branch out to Ohio State and beyond, while having this scholars family to really come back to. So maintaining your scholars designation is a 2-year commitment where first and second year expectations differ. Students are only required to live in their respective residence hall the first year of the program. Students must also meet any specific requirements for your program, and those will be detailed by your Scholars Program Manager. Students must enroll and pass a 1 credit hour scholar seminar, and they must maintain a GPA of 3.0. So a little bit about applying. Foremost, it's most important for students to apply by November 15th, which is Ohio State's early action deadline this year. While we will take applications until February 1st, we do have the tendency to fill our class early, and so priority consideration is given to students who follow that November 15th deadline. So I really want to stress that November 15th deadline, that you're getting your application in on time by November 15th. Students must make a choice on the common application and apply for either the honors program or the scholars program. And after their choice, they must respond to our essay prompt, which is listed on the screen there for you. We do not see your application until you've been admitted for fall semester to the Columbus campus. So we are not reviewing you at the same time as the admissions office is reviewing your application. We wait until you've been admitted, and then you're sent to our office for a holistic review. There is just 1 point of entry for our scholars programs, so students may only apply as an incoming freshman through the common application. We don't take transfer students or current OSU students into the programs. A little bit about what we're looking for. So after a student has been admitted to Columbus campus, then they undergo this competitive holistic review process. Our competitive holistic review includes 4 different areas. Academics, this category includes the academic components of the applicant's file, including class rank, or GPA, standardized test scores, which are optional for this year, and a college prep curriculum. We are looking for students who took full advantage of the academic opportunities available at their high school, including things such as AP, IB, and post-secondary education. Students should be well prepared to participate in a rigorous honors and scholars curriculum at The Ohio State University. Extracurricular activities. This category includes the applicant's extracurriculars, honors, awards, and any work experiences. We're seeking students who demonstrate a variety of dedicated, sustained involvement and possess some leadership roles. We also look for students who have received unique recognition above and beyond traditional awards. And then there's our essay. We use the essay to gain an understanding of the student that we're really unable to obtain from elsewhere in the application to the university. So the student should possess and demonstrate analytical and critical thinking skills. And lastly, we're looking for creativity and willingness to think beyond traditional structures and cliched answers. And then finally, we have our additional attributes. And this category includes the applicant's skills and special abilities or talents and their personal and professional characteristics. Some examples of personal and professional characteristics include things such as resiliency, integrity, adaptability, persistence, motivation, and intellectual curiosity. We're also looking for students who have the ability and desire to contribute to and engage with a diverse campus community, which includes cultural, economic, racial, and geographic, to name a few. So our notification process, our scholars programs include one additional step. Students will receive an offer to move forward in the process, and they must rank their interest in the 17 programs. They must rank at least a first, a second, and a third choice program, and then they can rank remaining interest in any of the other programs that they're interested in. Many programs are highly competitive and students are not guaranteed their first choice program. And so we do really encourage you to look at some alternate programs as well. Students then receive notification of their individual scholars program acceptance on a rolling basis starting in January and going through April. To accept scholars, students need to pay their university acceptance fee by May 1st. There isn't a separate fee to accept or participate in the scholars programs. We do want to mention that there are 2 points of entry into our honors program. So students can apply for honors as incoming freshmen through the common application, or any student, including our scholar students, can apply after just 1 semester of Ohio State coursework, as long as they've taken a rigorous curriculum and have a GPA of a 3.4 or 3.5, depending on their college of enrollment. At that point, students can keep their affiliation with the scholars program while also participating in the honors program. And so you kind of get the best of both worlds in that scenario. And now I'm happy to turn the program over to Ben, Stephen, and some of our fabulous students. Guys, take it away.
Thanks, Carrie. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. I know this is not an ideal way to start a school year here at Ohio State and nationally, but I hope everyone is well and that your families are doing well and staying safe and healthy. I just want to introduce myself really fast, and I'll shift it over to my colleague, Ben. I'm Stephen Blaylock. I'm the program manager for the International Affairs Scholars Program here at Ohio State.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Fortman, and I am the program manager with the Humanities Scholars. We are happy today to have 3 fantastic real-life students with us, and we want to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. If you all could do your name, your year in school, where you're from, and your major. We'll start with Kennedy.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kennedy. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm a 4th-year marketing major in the Humanities Scholars Program.
And Natalie.
Hello, my name is Natalie Keener. I'm a fourth year studying creative writing with a specialization in poetry. And I am from Toledo, Ohio, and I'm also in the Humanities Scholars Program.
And Max.
Hello everyone, I'm Max Four. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I'm a second year studying public policy and econ. And I'm in the International Affairs Scholars.
Great. All right, next slide, please. Perfect. So I'm going to take the next few slides on experiential learning and what it is and why we do it within the context of scholars here at Ohio State. So a lot of you in the audience tonight, you're probably thinking when you come to college, you'll be in a classroom, you have a professor or maybe a lab assistant, if you're one of the STEM majors, and you're kind of thinking, well, my professor's going to teach everything that I need to know, right? And that's how I'm going to get all my expertise and knowledge when I come to college. And for the most part, that's right. You're going to get a lot of knowledge and expertise from some of our amazing faculty members here at Ohio State. But for our purposes here, there is such a large amount of learning that takes place outside of the classroom. And that is just as equally valid and equally important to what's happening inside the classroom. So when I say experiential learning, what I'm talking about is the learning that takes place outside that classroom environment, right? That can be in the residence hall, that can be at a community service site here in Columbus, that could be a community service project here on campus. That can be learning from alumni in your scholars program or learning from each other, right? So when I talk about experiential learning, what we're talking about in a kind of a broad way is any kind of learning that takes place outside the classroom, learning from direct experience, again, doing research, doing community service, being a mentor, being a leader, perhaps in our leadership council and our scholars programs, we can get into in the Q&A or in a few moments, but also learning from each other, learning from your peers, and learning from others that are here at Ohio State and others that have finished at Ohio State. So kind of keep that in the back of your minds. We're talking about experiential learning today in the scholars context. We're talking about that learning that really takes place outside the classroom, which at the end of the day, most of your time in college will actually be outside of that classroom and outside of the library. So that's what we're talking about tonight. So next slide, please. So why do we do it? And why do we do this in the context of scholars, right? So I have 4 bullet points here projected on the screen. I'm going to briefly touch upon each one and what we're trying to do with experiential learning in the Ohio State Scholars Program here on campus. So first and foremost, this is huge, especially in your first year, is what we want to do is build community, right? So we want y'all to come to Ohio State, and once you step foot on campus, we really want you to have that community of other first year students who are here with you in your scholars program. You're living in the residence hall together, you're going to events and programs together, you're attending your scholars seminar course, if you can touch upon that in the Q&A as well. These are all things that you're doing together as a shared experience. So Ohio State is a big school. We're not going to lie about that, but Scholars is a really great opportunity to kind of get to Ohio State and really have a community of people that you can start connecting with on day one. So 2 is creating connections. And this is kind of like outside of your first year cohort, right? So this can be second year students if you choose to have a mentor who's a second, third, or fourth year student in the program who can help guide you along the way. These can be connections with staff members here at Ohio State. So that can be your scholars program manager. We also do a really good job of connecting students with career resources, with service projects, extracurricular opportunities, student organizations, internships, all that fun stuff. Research opportunities, I think I already said that, but I'll mention that one more time because that's really big for a lot of folks in my program. But you're kind of creating connections within the theme of scholars, right? So when you come to Ohio State, not only do you have that community of first year students in your cohort, but you have this entire kind of network of students who have kind of gone through the program and who could help you along the way as well. 3 is leveraging your network. So a lot of folks, especially as y'all get to your second, third, and fourth years in college, you're looking for that internship, you're looking for that job, you're looking for a research project in your field. That's something that's of interest to you. And I think Scholars is a really great way to find those opportunities. I know in both humanities and international affairs scholars, Ben and I like to bring in faculty members throughout the year. We like to bring in staff members throughout the year to connect with our students. And if those folks have opportunities for our students, they can just email Ben and I and say, hey, I need some folks in IA Scholars for a research project, and we can help connect you and facilitate those opportunities for y'all. So when I say leverage your network is really just kind of taking advantage of the people that we're connected with as program managers and taking advantage of the connections that your peers have as well is really important. Last but not least is I think we do a pretty good job of helping students access programs and resources here on campus. Sometimes those are purely academic, so the research office, the Office of International Affairs, if you want to go abroad, things like that. But there's also non-academic resources and programs that we like to connect our students with, like community service, like volunteering at Ohio State, like getting connected with a student organization that maybe falls outside of our theme, but we think is of interest to folks in our program. So at the end of the day, all of the events and programs that we do within Scholars, we're trying to do these 4 things to help students academically, professionally, and also personally as well. With that, I'm actually going to shift it over or to the next slide. I think we have a brief video that we can play, and then I'll shift things over to Ben. I think we should be able to play this video. So this is a video that was made. I don't know if we're able to play this or not with tech issues. I don't think there's sound, but this is a video from our media scholars. So you can kind of get a snapshot of what scholar students do here at OSU. And unfortunately, I don't think the sound works. Just imagine how impactful that is with sound. So you can imagine that in your heads. And I'm going to shift it over to my colleague, Ben, for the next few slides.
Great, thank you, Stephen. So Stephen just kind of went through and gave us the definition of experiential learning. And so what does that really mean when it comes to scholars? Well, as a scholar student, what you would be doing is participating in programming and events and activities outside of the classroom that go ahead and align with your scholars program theme. So really the goal of scholars, like we've mentioned, is to provide you that opportunity to connect with your theme while also building a very strong cohort of students that are really quite similar to you in a lot of different ways. When it comes to participation, each scholars program is going to have its own participation expectations. They're all a little bit different. You may be in a program that has a specific day of the week where every Tuesday you would go and in the evenings have a meeting or an event or a program with your fellow scholars. You may be in a program where the expectations are set up more like a buffet, and you are picking and choosing the opportunities and events that align with your interests, and you may kind of go to events when you're able. In summary, you could kind of break it down that every scholars program really at the basic minimum, you'd be looking at maybe one event or engagement opportunity a week. So when we're talking about participation, it's really not overwhelming at all. It's not something that you should be overly concerned about when it comes to managing your time. But we as program managers are here for you and here to support you. The main reason you're at Ohio State is to succeed in the classroom, and we're perfectly willing to make sure that you're able to do both scholars and succeed academically. So that's kind of in the nutshell how participation would work. The best way for us to really kind of show you and give and best describe what scholars is like is to give you specific examples. And so that's what we're going to go ahead and do now. I want to start with the humanities scholars. So this is an example of a couple activities and events that we would have available for students during the year in the Humanities Scholars Program. So we do a lot of discussions with faculty. We do a lot of maybe documentary watching parties and discussions. We like to get students off campus as well. And so one example is our Broadway in Columbus series. We send students to Broadway musicals that come through Columbus. We send students to museums around and about the city. And we want you to explore what has to offer. So we sent students to Hamilton a couple years ago when it was in Columbus. So that's one example. We do a lot of service, as do all scholars programs. And so one of our signature traditional events is our Halloween food drive, where students kind of walk the neighborhood and trick or treat for food that is then donated to a food bank in Columbus. And so those are a couple examples of events that happen that you would participate in as a humanities scholar. Before we move on, how about maybe Kennedy, would you be willing to share maybe a favorite humanities scholars event that you've participated in?
Yeah, so man, it's so hard to choose. There's so many good ones. I think one of my favorite events, every semester we do an Explore Columbus, where we try to pick somewhere around the city that students might not typically get to go to, and we just kind of explore the community that we live in. So we've gone to COSI, we've gone to the zoo, we've gone to the art museum, we've gone to a pumpkin patch. So there's so many different opportunities to explore. And I think that's one of the great things about scholars, is that you're not just focusing on OSU and being on campus, but also getting out of our little bubble and out into the world and exploring. So that's probably one of my favorite events.
Natalie, how about you? Anything come to mind when it comes to favorite participation with scholars?
Absolutely, our trip to New York City, my freshman year. I never would have gone on my own. I would have been a little too scared to take on all the opportunities that New York City had without the scholars group. And we went to the Met, we went to the MoMA, we went to Broadway. We got a chance to explore New York City on our own after we had been introduced to just kind of like how the city worked and everything. And it was a really eye-opening experience. I really hadn't left my hometown up until that point, and it proved to me that I could do that and I could go learn about new places and new things and pick up new skills and interests. So Scholars has really helped me just kind of be brave and taking steps and figuring out who I am, what I like to do, and all those kinds of cool things.
Great, thank you both. Stephen, would you want to go ahead and share some international affairs examples?
Sure, let's go. Thanks, Ben. Let's do next slide, please. So for IA, we have something that's unique to our program is we have a great partnership with a local nonprofit here in Columbus called Community Refugee and Immigration Services. This is a nonprofit refugee resettlement agency that we've kind of organically worked with for about maybe 5 or 6 years now. This is actually before my time with the program. And one of the things we've been able to do for the past 2 years or so is partner with the local nonprofit with a few elementary and middle schools in the city of Columbus that serve primarily refugee and immigrant children here in the city. And what we do is we're able to design the murals, and the murals are designed by an IA scholar. And then we're able to send our students in the program to paint those murals for the students in that local community, for the faculty, for the staff, for the students, the families, et cetera. So we've been able to do this. This was obviously pre-COVID for the past few years now. And it really is just kind of like bringing that issue of global to local. And that is really kind of what we try to do in our program is, even though we're painting a mural at a local elementary school, there's a lot of different international and global elements to what we're doing, and we might not even think of it, right? So that's just one example that we've been able, that we kind of bring to the table as far as experiential learning. I'm actually gonna put Max on the spot for a second because I think Max does some great work with Chris. Max, do you wanna kind of comment on maybe your involvement or any other thing that we've done in IA that you wanna chat about?
Of course, yeah, I can just immediately talk on my participation in CRIS, Community Refugee and Immigration Services. So I'm a second year, so I've actually participated most in their mentor-mentee program. So I had the benefit of being able, I think it was the first community meeting, Stephen had set up the informational meeting with the director of the mentor program through Chris. And so I immediately was hooked, and I was paired up with a recently resettled refugee in the Columbus area. And so throughout the past year or so, we've gotten to know each other. And through this involvement, I think it speaks to what Stephen was talking about how, I mean, our scholars group is international affairs and we're in the middle of Ohio. So it's it seems a bit of an anomaly, but once I started taking advantage of some of the resources that International Affairs has provided me, I've started to see the connections between these two levels, and to see how all of these international elements, as Stephen has said, are present in Ohio and in Columbus. And I mean, in a very big way in Columbus, not just with the refugee population, but in many different opportunities that I've been given, such as, like, I remember one of the first social events last year was we went to the Columbus Greek Festival, which took place at the, I think, Orthodox Church in downtown Columbus, which was just such a unique experience. So all of these different ways that the international elements can be manifested in Columbus, and getting myself off of the oval and off of campus, it just really helped me. Yeah.
Thanks, Max. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is an example, because Ben and I didn't want to take all the credit for opportunities that we give to students here at OSU. So we have another one from another scholars program. This is the Architecture, Landscape, and City Scholars Program. There should be some text that should pop up really fast if you click on the screen. I think there we go. So an example of what they do is, at the beginning of every year, they have mentors and mentees that are grouped together, and they do a downtown architecture tour. So they are assigned to investigate a particular building that has architectural qualities that are of interest. And then they present that building and what they found out about it to their mentor mentee group at the end of the day. So it entails a 3-hour tour of downtown Columbus, exploring the architecture and really kind of investigating the different architectural styles that the city has to offer. So that is something that the Architecture Scholars does. That sounds a lot of fun. And they do that every fall semester. Yep. So next slide, please. And I think
already
this is my
seen,
colleague Ben.
Yeah, you've already seen this list of the 17 different scholars programs, and you can really just see the wide variety of themes that are available to you. Again, the scholars programs are not major specific, so you could be engineer and be in the humanities scholars, or you could be studying biology and be in the politics, society, and law scholars. It really is open to you as a way to continue your interests outside of what your major might be. So just to give a couple more examples of events and activities that happen in these programs, just so you can kind of see what else is out there. The Media, Marketing, and Communication Scholars Program, for example, has workshops that run throughout the semester that focus on different media outlets or computer programming. So it's a way for students to participate in those workshops and learn a skill while they're being a part of the Scholars Program. The Art Scholars Program is heavily involved with our School of Music and our theater department, and gets students off campus to see performances of all different varieties. The Dunn Sport and Wellness Scholars Program is all about health and wellness and being active, and so they do a lot of events and programming that relate to different health aspects and events of that sort. So you can really just, with looking at a couple of these, see and kind of imagine the activities and events that might happen throughout the semester. Stephen, do you have anything to add as far as other examples?
The only thing I would add is for folks in the audience that are thinking of STEM, health, medicine, things like that, I know a lot of the bio, health sciences, and our STEM scholars programs will visit a lot of research labs here on campus and connect with faculty that are doing research in those fields. So I know that's of interest to a lot of folks who are applying to med school or doing STEM related research. So I want to throw that out there for the science folks in the audience tonight.
Great. So if we move on to the next slide, we can kind of explore the benefits of scholars. Stephen, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I can take it. Sure. So just as you can see here, these are pretty self-explanatory. I'll go some of these kind of one by one. Just kind of how we feel that the scholars programs kind of how they positively impact our students. First and foremost, this is really about connecting with other students in your cohort. That goes back to day one and building community. All of the scholars programs will kick off the year with an annual retreat or kind of a welcome back event to connect people with each other. So we start that in move-in weekend usually. In a normal academic year, that's what we would start out with. So you start connecting with folks on day one. really start building your resume with your involvement in your scholars program and what those opportunities can provide, either on or off campus, because we're always thinking about that next job or internship. Something that that all three students really mentioned is exploring the city of Columbus and even outside of Columbus. That's really important because it's easy to come to Ohio State and kind of stick to campus. There's so much to do at Ohio State in any given day. It's almost overwhelming, which is fantastic. But don't forget, you have a pretty big city at your fingertips, and we want our students to take advantage of those opportunities so we can help facilitate that. We like to connect our students with faculty and staff. We've mentioned this throughout the presentation as well. That's really important. Again, shrinking the university and making those connections for our students is really important. Usually Scholars is one great way to kind of find service, research, or internship opportunities, either informally through someone else in your cohort or a second, third, or fourth year, to the program manager or through a guest speaker or something like that. So these are really good venues to kind of find those extracurricular activities to build your resume as well. Fourth is networking, or actually that's sixth, I think. I'm not counting right tonight. It's been a long day. Networking is always important. We actually did an event on networking last night with Career Services. And as you kind of progress through your college career, it's going to be really important to make those connections with people that can help you with your futures. And I think Scholars is a really great network to have because you have second, third, and fourth year students who can help you along the way. So you can really start those networking skills with your peers starting on day one. And again, kind of bringing whatever your area of your topic interest is to life. So whether that's biology or leadership or STEM, Scholars can really connect you with opportunities and hands-on experiences to kind of say, hey, this is what I can do in this theme or topic area after I graduate. That's really important to explore as well. And last but not least is we want y'all to have fun. College can be stressful. Y'all all are going to have papers and finals and midterms, and there's going to be days where it's just like nonstop. The students are shaking their head like, yep, that's pretty much right. There's going to be days where you're going to be living off caffeine and pizza, and that's completely okay. But we do want our students to de-stress and have fun and kind of enjoy that community that we try to build for the duration of the entire program. So let's go ahead and Ben, did I catch everything in that slide?
Yes, fantastic. And I think now it's time to talk more to our students and maybe get a little more info from them and insight. So if you all could kind of think back to when you arrived on Ohio State campus and even before, maybe why did you choose Scholars, or what made you click the I'm interested in Scholars button and go through and accept the program? Anybody want to share? You can just wave your hand at me. Natalie, go for it.
Full transparency, I wanted to be in the honors program. I was used to all the honors and AP classes in high school, and I didn't get in. And I was upset, and I said, okay, I'm going to try the Scholars program because my tour guide when I was touring OSU for the first time said, kind of what's already been touched upon, you can make a big university small, but you can't make a small university big. And OSU had so many opportunities, so many clubs to join, all these, just things to get involved in. And I thought, okay, Scholars is a great structured place to start. And I'm very happy that I got in. It's been a community that has been there for me since even before day one. And I'm very excited to always have this community at my back. Even as a senior, when I come down to campus, I'm really nervous and just kind of scared with the big change from going from home to campus again. And it's always really comforting to know that my Scholars community always has my back and is always there for me. So I chose Scholars for the community experience, and I got it and then some.
Great, thanks, Natalie. Anyone else want to share maybe how they ended up in Scholars and what that kind of arrival was like? All right, we'll go Maxwell first.
Yeah, I did prefer Scholars and the application, but so throughout high school, I had kind of gone through all of my academics in a very competitive mindset, or at least my school trained me to kind of think of academics and involvement that way. And I learned that I didn't want the next 4 years of my life to be the same as the past 4. And I mean, while a very rigorous and competitive atmosphere can like cause growth for me, I realized that that's not the kind of growth I wanted to see in the next 4 years. And I think to speak to the buzzword of the hour in community and scholars is something that I really think I've really appreciated with the only 1 year that I've been on campus, because not to rag on the honors program, because it is also a very rigorous and very like exceptional program, but I see my engagement and my involvement with my friends, and like my roommate Pat this last year was in scholars, and most of the people that I still hang out with were through my scholars organization, and just being able to be exposed to all the interests has made my interest in international affairs and the topic of the scholars program turn into something that's taken more importance in my life and given me a larger sense of community than I'd even hoped. So I think that's why, and those are some of the reasons that I say scholars is a great opportunity to help yourself grow in a different way.
Great, thank you. And just to add one more thing, as it was mentioned earlier, the only entry point for scholars is as an incoming first-year student. At any point, you're able to add honors. Just keep that in mind as well. So if you get to campus and decide you want to go that route, you're always able to add honors and still participate in your scholars programs. So we mentioned expectations and attending events and being involved in your scholars programs. Can any of you talk a little bit about how you balance that and what your schedule looks like when it comes to class, going and participating in your scholars program, and then anything else you might have on your list? Anyone want to talk about that? Kennedy, go ahead.
Kind of put me on the spot there. Yeah. So I like to keep track of everything with a calendar because it keeps me organized. And I keep track of all the events and things that I have going on throughout the day, especially right now with COVID. Most things are virtual, so it can be kind of tricky to kind of keep up with all the events and things that are happening, all the links. So I recommend making like a calendar. But I mostly my priorities are obviously academics first. So I always put my classes and my assignments first, and then scholars. Even though I'm a fourth year, I'm still really involved. I'm on the leadership council. So I help plan the events for all of the people in the cohort. So I just try to make sure that I manage my time really wisely, but I still have plenty of time and flexibility in my schedule to do other things that I enjoy doing. So I'm a part of the Bob Ross Painting Club. So we paint like once a month, and that's really awesome. And I also work on campus. So I think it's just finding the things you enjoy and making time for it. You're going to be able to do everything you want to do as long as you just manage your time and utilize the resources that you have available to you. So it's not going to be like super stressful, and it shouldn't be stressful because everybody in scholars is so flexible. There's so many events that you can attend, and like Ben said, you can pick and choose. So I think it's just you make the most of it and you kind of pick what you think is important and just go from there.
Great, thank you. And Kennedy mentioned being a part of the Leadership Council, and that is one way where students, as they move up in their rank, to sort of give back to their scholars program. All the scholars programs have some sort of leadership council or group. The other way that students can kind of give back is through being a mentor to younger students. And so I know all of our scholars programs really kind of put together a mentor program. Natalie, I know you are involved with Leadership Council in Humanities Scholars and a mentor as well in the past. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like?
Yeah, so as a second year, the requirements for being in the Scholars Program, like just the amount of events that you have to attend and everything, it goes down. But I still wanted to stay very involved, so I thought, why not give Leadership Council a shot? I wanted to get more involved in planning the events that I wish I could have gone to as a freshman, some more events that I thought would be more engaging. And that has been a wonderful experience. Obviously, this is my third year on the Leadership Council. And being a mentor as well was really great because as a freshman, I didn't feel as supported by my mentors I could have been. And I get it. I mean, being a student and a mentor, it's hard because you have your own priorities and you're also trying to help another younger student with their priorities as well. But I just kind of wanted to see someone who is a little bit more interactive and just like present. So my experience in kind of just like moving up through Humanities Scholars has been just enacting the change that I wanted to see when I was a first or a second year.
Great. Well, let's see here. We've already talked a lot about what opportunities are available within Scholars, but a lot of what happens with the program is the community that's formed through our residence hall. So can any of you talk about what it's like to live with your fellow scholars and what, just what the environment is like for you on campus as a first year student? Max, can you talk about that?
Of course, yeah. So as I said before, and in a lot of the promotional material, Scholars, you typically, I think there are some exceptions, but you usually live on the same floor or a floor right next to all the other scholars in your Scholars group. So it's a great way to feel immediately connected on campus. I know that I was coming from out of state, so I had no support system whatsoever. I don't have any family in Ohio either, so it was literally just, I have to make friends to survive. And so Scholars, that might be a bit dramatic, but Scholars immediately helped me get keyed into that network in more of a natural way. I know that some people have really struggled, I mean, with valid reasons and making connections and finding friends in their involvement. But with Scholars, since I'm naturally living with someone, my roommate, and he's also an international affairs scholars, and I'm still great friends with him, but the environment on the floor is always very open. And even though not everyone might be totally engaged, there is such a great group of people each year in the residence halls where you're able to get involved in, and their involvements become open to you as well, because as another component of the Scholars is the networking aspect. I think I kind of shy away from that word, but then I've started to learn more and more it's more natural than I think, and how a lot of my friends and a lot of people in Scholars, we have a big group chat and they'll always put in their involvements or ways to get involved or how to help this certain situation around campus. So this community kind of builds on top of itself, and all of your friends in the environment start to become, I don't know, peers and connections to where you're able to get involved in more things just because you're just present geographically close to all these people, which make these connections longer than when you're just in the same floor.
Great. Well, I think the three of you have really given a good snapshot of what it's like to be a Scholar student. So a big virtual round of applause and thank you for your participation. We are happy to answer any questions that anyone has, but we also can do that electronically. So on the screen, you'll see our contact information. If you have any questions about the Honors or Scholars programs, please do not hold back. Let us know if there are any questions that we can help out with today. Stephen, anything else to add?
I think you covered everything, Ben. Just thank you to the students who joined us today. I know y'all are very busy with everything going on, so we truly appreciate y'all giving up an hour to chat with folks tonight. We really appreciate it, and thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Lots of great information this evening, and thank you to the attendees as well. As I mentioned earlier, we aren't doing any on-campus programs, but if you want to learn more about Ohio State beyond just the Honors and Scholars program, we do have our Buckeye Academic Preview Live program coming up, and so having a couple of choices with that. So we hope to see you then. In addition, when you receive the invitation for this webinar, there's also some others about Honors and Scholars, and so there's going to be another Scholars program one in October and Honors one in October as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, certainly encourage you to register for that. But want to thank everyone for joining us this evening, and good luck with the rest of your school year. So thanks and have a great day. Go Buckeyes.